Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Health Hour, which is Health Coaching with Beck. My name is Natasha Haller, and I'm the Membership Manager here at Diabetes Australia. And today, our topic is vegetarian diets and diabetes. So, I know a lot of people have met Rebecca, but Rebecca is our accredited practicing dietitian and health coach with over 20 years' experience working with people living with diabetes and works with us here on the United team. This Health Hour Health Coaching series is for you to ask your questions of Beck to gain knowledge and advice that will help you live well and manage your diabetes. So feel free to ask questions around today's topic, or if you have any other burning questions that aren't around today's topic, that's perfectly fine to bring those up as well. These sessions can be great if you don't have access to a dietitian or a health coach in your local area, or if you cannot get an appointment with one. So this is great to have access to a little bit of extra information. Just some housekeeping. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, you can either pop them in the Q&A section, or please just put up your hand or come off mute. We'd love to have a discussion with you in person. Just be aware that today's webinar will be recorded and it will be available on Diabetes Connect. So if you're not speaking, can you please keep yourself on mute? If you're not comfortable having your video show or your face show in the recording, just keep your video off. Otherwise, we'd love to have as many people as possible turn their cameras on. And as I mentioned, if you do have any questions, just put your hand up and you can come off mute and ask. Now I'll just read out our acknowledgement of country before I hand over to Beck. So Diabetes Australia acknowledges the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional owners and custodians of this country. We recognise their connection to land, waters, winds and culture. We pay the utmost respect to them, their cultures and to the elders past and present. We extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. We recognise that Australia is made up of hundreds of different Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander groups, each with their own histories, culture, language and belief systems. Their relationship with country remains of utmost importance, as is the foundation for culture, family, kinship, songlines and languages. Diabetes Australia is committed to improving health outcomes for all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people affected by diabetes and those at risk. And with that, I'd love to hand over to our lovely Beck.
Thank you, Tash. And hello, everyone. Lovely to see quite a few people online today. Some names I do recognise, which is fantastic. As Tash said, yeah, what we're talking about today is vegetarian diets and diabetes. And those who have attended the webinars before, it's a two-way street. I don't just sit here talking at you. I wanted to ask you guys a few questions before I come up with a few ideas around vegetarian diets and diabetes. First of all, do we have to be vegetarian? Second of all, if you are vegetarian, how do you get enough protein but also watch the amount of carbs? That's probably the biggest conundrum maybe people have. But there's lots of tips and tricks that you can go away with today. But I'd like to ask you all any comments or questions about vegetarian diets and diabetes. We've got the chat there, or we've got Q&A, or you can take yourself off mute. We haven't got 50 people here today, so certainly it'd be lovely to hear your voice and also see your faces if you wanted to put your camera on, or maybe you're in your pajamas and maybe you don't want to show us. Maybe you're having lunch. But I'll just wait a bit for people to comment. And if not, I do have a few things to say about vegetarian diets and diabetes. I think Stephen is off mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Stephen. Hello.
How are you?
Well, great. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. I was at the last session, so
yes.
I know your face, and I quite enjoyed that session. My comment is that only this, that it is very hard to eat healthily. And I say that because both my wife and I live a very active life, and we don't have much time to, I guess, eat what we should be eating. But we do eat quite well, but we find that it's portion size.
Yes. Yep. No, thank you, Steve. So yeah, it's interesting because there's sort of two parts to healthy eating, whether you're vegetarian or not. It's quality, so quality food. So it sounds like you got the quality right. Most people know to have more protein, go low GI, but also can be the quantity, the dose that makes the poison, people often say. So how much we eat, yeah. And so I think the first step is quality. If we can get good quality food in our diet, we're less likely to eat too much. I've never seen anyone eat 10 apples before. So if you're swapping a snack from a couple of rice crackers to an apple, or if you're going for a brown basmati rice instead of the jasmine rice, you're less likely to eat as much as the jasmine rice, but you can still overeat the rice. So Stephen, where do you find portions are an issue? Is it sorry, excuse my finger. My daughter painted my nails and got halfway through and then got annoyed because she made a mistake. We have a perfectionist in the household, so she stopped painting. So excuse my horrid looking nails. It's too early for Halloween. Stephen, where do you find portions are an issue? Is it more the nighttime meals, or is it lunch or breakfast?
Well, for example, I've had lunch. It consisted of vegetables, homemade vegetable soup, one
Yep.
bowl, and
Yep.
2 pieces of low GI toast.
Yep.
And I'm literally starving. Seriously, I could just eat whatever I can get my hands on. So.
Okay. So a couple of questions. So you're vegetarian, Stephen?
No, I'm not.
No. And is there any protein in the lunch? Because vegetable soup is very, very good. Is there any protein in there? So animal protein or legumes or?
Yeah, it was chicken vegetable soup.
Chicken vegetable soup. Okay.
And it probably consisted of the bowl would have been maybe 2 cups.
Yep.
Of vegetable chicken soup.
Yep.
And I've had some popcorn, salted, sweetened popcorn for afternoon tea.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just.
You're hungry.
Hungry.
Can I ask a few questions about that? So is it a homemade soup?
Yes, it is.
Great. And do you think there's a good amount of chicken in there?
There was probably, when I made the soup, it was probably 500 grams of chicken, and it's lasted maybe 4 bowls.
How many? 4 bowls?
4 bowls.
Yep, that's pretty good. 100 grams. Yep, you're spot on there. And you've got your low GI toast. So I'm just sort of thinking in terms of balance, which is great. So you've got the chicken, which is enough. You've got the veg, there's fluid in there, and you've got your low GI toast. Now, if you're vegetarian, you could swap that chicken for tofu to really plump up that protein. That was the first thing that comes to mind when you think, what is it that makes me hungry after a meal? So there can be a couple of reasons. Can I go back to the breakfast? So do you get to lunch really, really hungry? Or do you finish lunch not satisfied?
Both. Both.
Okay. So what's breakfast then?
Breakfast was a small bowl of cereal.
Yep.
Which was like an Aussie bush breakfast, Aussie bush cereal that comes in a blue box.
Yep.
And I treated myself with 2 crumpets.
Yep. Okay. And then in mid-morning, do you have something to eat mid-morning?
No, I didn't have any. I was out busy all morning.
Okay.
So lunch was at 11:45.
Okay. And is there water in the day? Any fluid?
I haven't. I had a small glass of water with breakfast.
Okay. So there's a couple of experiments, because has there ever been a time where you've had that soup and you haven't been hungry?
No.
Okay. The experiment you could try, whether you have or not, there's a couple of reasons why, and then people can come and give me their ideas too. I know Deb's online and she's got a wealth of knowledge as well. So I'm going to come up with a few ideas, but this is where we all can collectively be a bit of a detective and help you out. First of all, hydration. I know if I don't drink enough water, I will eat more than I should. That's one thing. We think we're hungry and actually thirsty. And then see, I've gone for another tea. This water cup is empty. I should have done that this morning. I didn't. So I tend to drink too much tea. So hydration, I know my portions are far too much and I can eat the same thing the next day. The second thing is you could try an experiment of breakfast. So you've got the bush cereal and the crumpets, which is fine, but because it's a bit more high GI, it doesn't satisfy us. Therefore, we'll get a bit of a spike and then come crashing down, and it can lead to hunger. So you might get that peak and then you crash down and get hungry just before lunch, where you're ready to eat the horse and chase the rider. So an experiment you could try, whether you have or not, is to try a couple of eggs at breakfast with your toast. So you're plumping up the protein, and I guarantee anyone who, if you've done this before, you've had eggs, you can sail all the way through lunch, and you get to lunch thinking, I'm not really hungry, but I should eat, because by the time it gets to 3, then I'll eat everything. Have you ever had eggs in the morning with toast, and have you noticed a different feeling after having them?
Yeah, eggs we have Friday and Saturday morning.
Okay.
And probably Sunday morning. So 3 mornings a week we have 2 eggs.
Yep. And do you feel different? Do you feel satisfied when it comes to lunch?
You're probably right that we do feel more satisfied.
Okay. And then are there other lunches? Excuse all these questions, but this is why I'm a health coach as well. So rather than just telling Stephen what to do and go, hey, just do this, Stephen's the expert in his own life. So he knows what will work for him. Therefore, I'm asking questions to find out what will work for him. So Stephen, are there other lunches that you've had where you're more satisfied compared to the soup and toast?
Oh, yeah, obviously the portion size is bigger. So
yep.
In answer to your question, of course, when I have much more than what I had for lunch.
Yep. Okay, so what you don't want to have eggs every day, but it might be when you have this toast, the soup and the toast, that you might have the eggs in the morning. The other thing I can send you, and I can send the group, is more higher protein breakfast. So I've got a high protein granola that has as much protein in it as 2 eggs. You add Greek yogurt on top, you're going to be clocking up about this 3 eggs in terms of grams of protein, and you'll find you'll be very, very satisfied. And if you cut the toast down to 1 and have a low GI toast, you're going to increase the fiber and reduce the volume in terms of carb load, but increase the protein as well. So would that suit, Stephen? I'll send you some ideas. Then you don't feel like, it doesn't mean you have to eat eggs every day. And I love the idea of chicken soup. I think it's a great option. We're turning winter salads into hot warming vegetables for the winter, and we keep the salads for summer. So I love that lunch. I don't think you should change it. It might be just changing the hydration status and then maybe playing around with your breakfast.
Yes, of course.
Yep.
So you're suggesting that I don't have that much cereal, because normally cereal is 5 days a week.
Yeah, okay. Well, it depends. Do you test your sugars 2 hours after breakfast?
No, not normally. I rely on the HbA1c results.
Okay. Do you finger prick? Do you have a blood glucose meter?
Yes, I do.
Could you try this experiment? Because diabetes is all about experimentation. So have your cereal tomorrow with your crumpets. Wait 2 hours and test your sugars. Right. Now we hope that they're less than 8. Right? The next day, have your eggs with some toast and test your blood sugars 2 hours after, and I guarantee they'll be lower.
They'll be, sorry, what?
Lower. If you have the eggs and toast, a higher protein breakfast and less carb, I guarantee your blood sugars will be within range compared to when you have the bush cereal and the 2 crumpets. But try it out.
Okay.
And that will be your trick, because the higher the blood sugars, you go crashing down and you can be hungry. So that's the key. And once you see the numbers, it will give you a good understanding of, okay, I'm in range. The more outside of range you are, whether too low or too high, you'll get hungry.
Okay.
Yeah. So try that. But I will, after today, and I write it down, is send some protein ideas. And I like how you've kicked off with that, Stephen, because if people, when I'm working with vegetarians, when I'm creating recipes, the recipes for a main meal should be about 20 grams of protein for lunch or dinner. Breakfast, you can do 10 grams and more. But for lunch and dinner, I'm always aiming for at least 20 grams. Now, with vegetarian diets, it's not impossible, but it's not as easy, because if you're choosing legumes like chickpeas or lentils, half a cup of chickpeas or lentils is going to give you about 20 grams of carbs. and only 8 grams of protein. Now, if you had a palm size of chicken, you're going to get at least 20 grams. So you can see that it's not easy, but I'm going to go through a bit of that later on to look at protein combining, so you can get that 20 grams, but also keep those carbs down. If you're tuning in today and thinking, I want to have more vegetarian meals, or I am vegetarian, but I'm struggling with that balance. Oh, hang on, let's have a look. There's a Q&A. Hang on. Deb, I wonder what Stephen's blood glucose levels are low. Yeah, so it could be high or low. Yep.
Yeah, two things came to my mind was, Stephen said he could eat everything in the fridge. That sounds like a low to me. That's just my, go-to when I'm having a low. It's everything in the fridge. And the other thing is maybe in the chicken and veg soup, just some lentils or some white beans, some legumes. Add that to the soup, and that'll bulk it up a bit more.
I have chickpeas.
Yeah, great.
Most of the vegetables, and 500 grams of chicken. That I normally make this soup at the start of the week, and it lasts about 4 bowls, lasts about 4 days, 4 lunches.
Sounds like a perfect lunch. I think you got everything in there, the legumes, the veggies, the chicken. And yeah, as Deb said, the sugars, the key is really looking at what your blood sugars are. Are they too low or are they too high? Do you have any other symptoms? Like, do you feel like any foggy head or anything related to hypo?
No, I don't. I don't think that's the issue. I just think that because I'm so active,
yes,
that I just need more food, but I'm reluctant.
More food, yeah.
I'm reluctant to. I'm tough on myself, and I'm saying that I'm a diabetic and I can't be eating everything in the fridge.
Oh, look, it's not easy, but I think with Stephen, yeah, first of all, if your sugars are all right, if they're less than 8 after having your bush sealer and toast, that's and crumpers, that's fine, but it's more the hunger for me. So yeah, just play around with it, and I will send some ideas. We don't want you to be hungry. It's the worst feeling, isn't it, to feel hungry all the time? We should be leaving a meal satisfied, not stuffed, but feeling hungry because you're really active. Yeah, eating more. I can put some snack ideas for you too. The salty sweet popcorn tastes good, but it's not very filling for you. So what I could do is put some more satisfying snacks for your protein and carb combos to fill you up, because you're a very active man. You need more. So there's clever ways of increasing the fats and protein and keeping the carb to a moderate amount, not too high, not too low.
Okay,
how's that sound? Yeah, my pleasure. I'm writing it down because otherwise I'll forget. Other questions or comments? Are you vegetarian? Are you finding it hard to be able to balance the carbs and protein? Next, breakfast, protein, carb. Okay, I'll send that to you. So I'm just going to wait, and if not, I'm going to go through some ideas. So first of all, vegetarianism. I was vegetarian in my 20s. Because I loved cooking, but when I started to do weight training, gym work, I couldn't do it anymore. I felt that my body needed more animal protein, so I swapped back to being carnivore. But vegetarianism, whether you're vegetarian or not, having more plant food in the diet, we do know that having plant foods in the diet is very good for reducing the risk of other chronic diseases, cancers, etc. So you don't have to be completely vegetarian, but even the tip for me is to even have 1 vegetarian meal a week. The National Heart Foundation recommends that. If you are vegetarian, depending on what type you are, whether you're vegan, so that means no animal products. We've got lacto-ovo, which means milk and dairy. We've got ovo, which means you have eggs. We've got lacto, where it means you just have milk. So you can see there's all different ones, and the more you take out, the more you have to be clever with food combining to make sure you get enough nutrition. But with the main point I usually get from people is, as I said when we first started this webinar, is how do I keep the carbs to a minimum for optimal blood sugar control, but how can I boost the protein? And it goes back to the sources of protein. So the king of protein really for vegetarians is tofu, because tofu, 150 grams, I've written some things down here, 150 grams of tofu or tempeh, which is the fermented soy, gives you around 20 grams of protein. So remember I said that when I'm doing recipe development for lunch and dinner, we need a minimum of 20 grams. So go back to when I said, Stephen, that to give you that satiety, that feeling of fullness. So we need to get at least 20 grams of protein. So tofu, 150 grams, you're already getting about 20 grams, or the tempeh. You're on, okay? You're on in balance. Then you can add your carbs. But if you didn't have tofu or tempeh, you don't want to have that every day. If you did legumes, so chickpeas or lentils, half a cup is going to give you about 8 grams of protein, right? Which is the same as a really big egg, and 20 grams of carbs. Now, how many carbs can we have? Everyone's different. So someone like Stephen, who's very active, may be different with how much they can eat compared to someone else. Okay. Now, with the recipes I do, I keep into about 30 grams max. That's considered lower carb, not super low. I'm not talking keto or anything. But if you see any of my recipes and 30 grams is not enough, let's say, Stephen, you've tested your sugars, they're really good after your cereal and crumpets. Stephen could get away with cereal and toast, whereas others would say, oh, no, that's too much. My sugars are well above 8, so they might just have the cereal. See, everyone, it's not a one size fits all. But if you're keeping to about 30 grams, half a cup of legumes is 8 grams of protein. We need 12 more grams for that meal, and you've already clocked up 20 grams of carbs. So what you could combine with the chickpeas or lentils is nuts. So half a cup of nuts, which is a lot of calories, but it's a good amount of fat, will give you about 15 grams, let's say, yeah, about 15 grams of protein. So you could even do quarter cup of nuts, give you about 7-8 grams, half a cup of legumes, about 8 grams. So you could have a salad, some big spinach leaves, chickpeas, some walnuts. You might put a few spoons of quinoa in there, or brown basmati rice, which still gives you a bit of protein, and then you've got yourself a combined meal. But you can see how easy it is to overeat the legumes. If you've got a cup of legumes of the chickpeas, you're going to get 40 grams of carbs and only 16 grams of protein. So sometimes people find they don't realise that that's something that's kicking up the sugars. The other thing is eggs. Eggs are just superior when it comes to protein. They're the closest thing to perfect protein. So a small regular egg gives you about 6 grams, right? So if you had a big egg, it's about 8 grams. So 2 eggs is already 16 grams if you're having big egg. So it's a very easy way to clock up the protein for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. How many
eggs are you allowed? Is it suggested to have a week?
Very good question. Very good question. So thank goodness it's changed. Remember the years ago, how many eggs did they say? What was it, Deb? They would have said, oh gosh, it was only a few eggs a week. It was horrible.
6.
So, if people with diabetes who are at risk of heart disease, well, what the recommendations are is that anyone with diabetes has a high risk of heart disease. So they say no more than 7 a week. But I'm not going to comment on that. That's the recommendation. If there's no risk of heart disease, it doesn't matter, right?
I'll comment, Beck, because I'm not a professional. Yeah, and for somebody like Stephen, who is really super active, eat them till you're sick of them.
The egg white and the yolk.
Yep. Yeah, all of it, Stephen. It's really important. Yeah, but it's like I said, it's the closest thing to perfect protein, and it gives you vitamin E and A, good fats. So the main thing with heart disease, as long as you're getting your bloods regularly done and there's no cholesterol issue, etc., it's absolutely fine, because we know if we have too much carbohydrate and the sugars go up, then we put ourselves at risk of complications, etc. So it's a balancing act. I don't eat eggs every day because I get sick of them, but I do have them at least a good couple of times a week. So mixing it up, but definitely feature them in your diet to fill you up, prevent that hunger, and to manage those blood sugars. But eggs are great. And the other thing is, the other question people often have is, well, what about protein powder? And so sometimes I've seen people who don't like eggs, maybe they don't eat eggs, maybe they're vegan, or they're sick of them. Protein powder, I never usually put in my recipes. Maybe now and then I'll put it in a smoothie recipe. You don't need protein powder, but it is there as a good resource, as a good option if you find you're not getting enough protein in the diet. Because if you're having a smoothie and putting milk and yogurt and fruit, it does clock up a lot of carbs. So if you're putting a good scoop of protein powder in there, it's going to give you about 15 to 20 grams of protein. So if you find that for whatever reason you're not getting enough protein, you can get some very good protein powders out there. You can get vegan protein powders as well. And a lot of these powders are just made with plant proteins and they're lower carbs. So that's a really good option, particularly in the summer. If you do like a more of a liquid breakfast, the protein powder is a real lifesaver because, as I said, Greek yogurt is very high in protein. You get about 12 grams of protein for about half a cup in the Greek yogurt. So it's a good amount. But if not, you can use the protein powder. Great meal replacement. If I had we did a wellness expo, our team, and there was a lovely lady who said she just couldn't stomach breakfast and was getting very anxious and she didn't know what to do. So I said, well, how about liquids? And she said, oh, liquids I could do. Because she was skipping breakfast and then having problems with low sugars later on. So I discussed with her the idea of maybe making a smoothie and wrote down the combinations of carb and maybe some protein powder because she can't have large volumes. And she said, oh, that's something I could do. So there's always something for everyone, but people can overdo protein. And we know that, especially with type 1 diabetes, about above 75 grams, it can actually increase blood sugars if we have too much. I mean, people can have way less than 75 grams. And it can increase the sugars as well. So it's not just our carbs. It's a real balancing act. Do people have favourite vegetarian recipes? Or are they looking for a vegetarian recipe? They think, oh, I need more plant foods in my diet. I said once a week, that's all you need to do if you're looking at trying something new. But do people have vegetarian recipe ideas they want to share, or would you like me to send you some?
Yes.
The meal plans I do every month. This is how I do meal planning. So let's talk about meal planning. We have 7 days of the week, right? And my sister asked me the other day, God bless her, she likes eating but not cooking. She says, how do you do these meal plans? So what I do is I have Monday to Sunday and I start off with the proteins. And I always try to get a good mix. So I'll do 2 days a week chicken, 2 days a week red meat, 2 days a week fish, and then 1 day a week vegetarian. And so that's for the dinners, and that's in accordance with the National Heart Foundation guidelines. Okay, so we don't want any more than 350 grams of red meat a week. So the portions, Stephen's bang on with the portions. Stephen, you said 500 grams gives you about 4 serves. That's about 125 grams. It's very good. Very, very good. So chicken, you don't have to worry how much you have, but the National Heart Foundation says about 350 grams of red meat. Okay, so that's how I meal plan. But I always find the vegetarian one difficult because we're factoring in carbohydrates, and I don't want to always use tofu. So it's that, like I said, that balancing act. I've got all these numbers written down because I try to make sure the meal gets 20 grams of protein by doing some food combining, but keeping those carbs down to below 30. So 20 grams of protein, 30 grams of carb. That's not for everyone. Some people find that 30 grams is too much. Some people find it's not enough and you need to go up to at least 45 grams. Probably someone like Stephen, I'd say, being very active. But that's how we meal plan. And then Stephen's great chicken veggie soup, making up a batch of that is a fantastic idea to then have it on hand, because another person that spoke to me at the wellness event said, oh, many people said, oh, you know, I'm eating for one, or I'm busy with the grandkids, I get home and I just have tea and toast, or I just snack. So making up 1 or 2 batches of your favorite meal is a great idea, and freezing it or trying to find a ready meal that is a good amount of protein and not too high in carb. You can have those on hand, or scrambled eggs on toast is always a backup for me. Does anyone have a go-to meal, a default meal that they have that's maybe in the freezer? Deb, do you have that chili? You know, your low carb chili. Do you? Deb's got. Well, we had it in the Circle magazine. Deb's got this amazing low carb chili. Do you freeze that? Do you batch it up?
Yep.
Yeah.
I do. I batch cook every meal, apart from breakfast. And even then, if I'm making, say, pancakes or something like that, I'll make extras and freeze them. But what I do, I like your idea of meal planning, and I'll do 14 days of meal plan. So for the first week, for both weeks, but I'll double the recipe, if you like. So double the quantity that I would use, my husband and I would use, and freeze half of it, and then do the next meal plan the next week, so that I'm repeating every 14 days, if that makes sense.
I like that.
But I'm only cooking for 2 weeks out of the 4.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. So it just gives me, but my go-to would be soup, especially in, this weather. Yeah, I just make, and I usually make my soups up in the slow cooker. Easy.
Good idea.
And just, divvy them up and put them in the freezer, and we can just pull out a container out of the freezer and there's lunch or dinner.
No, that's a great idea. And I like the idea of you got that cycle of every 2 weeks, so it's not so overwhelming. This is an interesting comparison. Sorry, I used to work in a nursing home as a nurse, but we used to have this rotational 2 weeks, and it was a rotational. So people thought they were having the different meals, and then every season we would change it. And that's that gave me the idea of meal planning with how they did it. With the different proteins and everything, because people often get overwhelmed up when, and I must put probably a note in the email that when people get a meal plan every month, or they get our harvest recipe book, not to feel overwhelmed, maybe sit back and think, when you're meal planning, and I say chicken twice, red meat twice, fish twice, and then vegetarian, look at all the meal plans I've got, and maybe choose 4 chicken recipes, 4 meat recipes, 4 fish, and 4 veggie, and you might just use 2 of them of each protein and cycle with that, and then try something new, rather than feeling like you've got so much. So if you can always think of that 4 favorite of those different proteins, then you won't feel so overwhelmed as well, because I've got so many recipe books and it can be overwhelming, but we just pull back and keep a few. Can also help. Stephen, do you mind if you share that one thing that I've asked people to do, and I remind people in webinars, with the meal plans I design every month, and with Harvest and also our Circle magazine, well, I'm always asking members to contribute maybe their favourite recipe, and we'll put you in Circle. So we had Deb featured in Circle. We have just a little spiel about yourself, a little photo, and then your recipe. I review it and maybe make tweaks if needed. And then people can see other members donating recipes. Would you, I'm putting you on the spot here, would you be happy to contribute?
Yeah, I have got, I just can't think. It was when my wife and I were substituting. We weren't eating bread. We were making up. It's called. It's not called. This is a jaffle.
Jaffle, like a toasted
No,
mix sandwich.
You make it in a jaffle machine.
Oh, right.
But it's a substitute for bread.
Ah.
And when I did the Beat It program, was one of the recipes that I shared with the people that I did that Beat It program with. It's not a jaffle. The word sounds like jaffle.
Right.
It's
how interesting.
You make it in a jaffle machine and a jaffle iron, and then you can freeze it.
That sounds really interesting. Well, when we send out some of the information, I'm going to send out some vegetarian recipes, and then, like I said, those protein carb combos. if you reply, if anyone as well wants to send in a recipe, either it might be a favorite you want to share for other members, or maybe you've got a recipe that you want me to make over. You might think, I've got this family favorite recipe. And if it's once in a blue moon, you don't want to rejig it, you just want to keep it. But if you're having it all the time, or you want to have it more often, but you want me to modify it, I'm also happy to do that, because I'm coming up with recipes all the time, but I'd love, this is why we call it United. It's about all of us coming together. And I'd love to know what goes on in your family, or in your culture, your special events. So please, at any time, I'm going to put my email in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. So it doesn't have to be, there's no such thing as a perfect recipe. Just send it in and say, what do you think of this? Does it need tweaking? And I'd love to, it's my favorite thing to do is recipe development. I'm just diabetesaustralia.com.au.
Chaffle was what it was called.
Yeah, I'm really interested to know about that. Chaffle. Something new.
If you just give me a minute, I'll see if I've got it in my recipe book. Just 1 minute. I'll just.
Okay. Australia.com.au. The other good vegetarian recipe is lentil dal. I used to call it poor man's porridge when I was a vegetarian at uni. Lentil dal is also really good, but what I did to bump up the protein was I added tofu in it as well. But the lentil dal is just lentils, red lentils cooked with beautiful spices. Then you can put tofu in it, which is quite nice, or you could even have a bowl of that. And what the Indonesians do when they have nasi goreng is put the fried eggs on top. You can put a couple of eggs on top. So eggs are always this excellent source of protein that you can put on top of noodles or whatever. And I love that idea in Indonesia, because you'd have some noodles. And I never used to like runny eggs. I used to always like firm poached eggs. But if you have a runny poached egg or runny fried egg on noodles, it becomes the sauce. Then you mix it up. So it was one thing I took from Indonesia, and I had tempeh in there and egg. It was just absolutely delicious.
Can I? Oh, sorry, Stephen.
No, I will find the recipe, but it's called the chaffle, and it's only got 4 ingredients. There's an egg, there's grated cheese, there's just 4 ingredients.
Wow.
You mix it up and you put it in a bowl, and then you pour it into a jaffle machine.
Oh, I'd love to know that recipe, because I'm trying to come up with really quick recipes with just a few ingredients. That's brilliant.
We used to. This is what we used to substitute for bread, but we stopped because it was time consuming.
Okay.
I will find it, and when my wife comes home, I will source it out.
Thank you. And just take a picture on your phone and then upload it and send me an email. That might be quickest for you, rather than have to write it out.
Oh, look, I'm not technically minded, but she is.
We'll get her to do it.
But even me doing this it's stretching it.
That sounds really good.
I've really set up. She set all this up for me.
Oh, see, this is good teamwork. See,
I'm domesticated.
Well, you get 10 points already. I'm already impressed.
So I will find that and I will get it to you.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. And the chicken soup as well. I'd love to see it.
Oh, chicken soup it's quite simple. It's 500 grams of chicken. It's from the supermarket. It's the soup starter pack that you can buy. In the supermarket, I use half of that.
Yep.
Per makeup. Lentils, some spice.
Probably split peas.
Sorry.
Oh, is it split peas in the soup mix? It's
No, sorry, split peas. Yeah. Split peas and chickpeas.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I cook it for 2 hours. What else?
Probably stock.
Oh yes, 4 stock cubes, chicken stock cubes,
Mm-hmm.
and chicken stock water.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Easy.
yeah.
No, thank you.
But I find that recipe, it's close handy, but I don't know. And for Chaffle, CHAFFLE.
Chaffle. Oh, 'cause it's half cheese, half. I get it. Chaffle. Chaffle.
The cheese waffle.
Oh, yes, that's it.
I don't know.
And-
Maybe.
So you can use it instead of bread.
Wow.
Yeah.
It makes me think of a word like just a tipple or a chaffle. It sounds like a word that you'd use. I'll be with you in a chaffle or something. It sounds very British. I'll be with you in a chaffle. Deb, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I've recently been told that my iron levels are really low. So and I don't, the go-to is, well, eat more red meat. Well, I don't want to eat red meat every night.
No.
And I was wondering whether there's some sort of, alternative, some vegetarian, ingredients that I can boost my iron with.
So firstly, are you on a supplement? Have they put you on a...
Nope. I have to have an iron infusion in a couple of days.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, that's first and foremost, because if it's really low, diet's not going to do enough. But again, we need to boost it up, and you might get to a point you don't have infusions anymore and your diet's quite balanced. You probably know about with vegetarianism, because yes, red meat's one thing, but oysters are also very high in iron, and mussels, but expensive. No. When I die, my last meal is going to be oysters and champagne. It's my favorite. If anyone wants to buy me anything,
you can have my serve as well.
Mine is, I'm high risk of bacterial infections, but I'm going to die anyway. It's blue cheese. That's what I love.
Yeah.
Oysters, champagne, but if I have a reaction, oh well. So what was I saying? Yes. So with vegetarianism, like with plant proteins, the thing to do is that food combining to boost iron absorption, because if we have too much fiber, there's phytates in fiber, it can reduce iron absorption. So it's kind of hard with vegetarianism. We need to kind of, or vegetarian meals, get the balance right, not too much fiber, because it can impact on the absorption. So it's the vitamin C with a meal that increases absorption with the whole grain. So vitamin C, it's not just, people think oranges straight away, but tomatoes. So if you're using tinned tomatoes, citrus, okay, red capsicum is very high in vitamin C. So using those sort of fruits or vegetables in combination with legumes will boost the iron absorption. Your tofu and tempeh, I must have the iron. I'd have to have a look, but with vegetarian diets, it's combining it to boost that iron. You don't just have tofu on its own. So if you've got a legume, a whole grain, and vegetables, that's kind of a complete iron thing. It doesn't absorb as much as animal protein. I think it's about, I'll have to find out if I'm right. I think animal protein absorbs iron has an absorbable iron of about 20%, whereas plants is about 5%. Okay. But don't quote me on that. I will send you guys a little iron counter. I used to have that in a little book, and it gives you the milligrams of iron for different foods. But if you're boosting it with the vitamin C with your veggies, it's going to absorb more. Chicken, not very high in iron, but again, if you've got chicken, legumes, or a whole grain and your vegetable, it's going to increase the iron. So the only really product or food by itself that's high in iron is your red meat or your liver, right? But most of other proteins, you need to, like the fish, you need to have it as a combination, and that will boost it. That's the main thing. Then you'll have fortified products like Marmite and Vegemite. If you are a vegetarian, a lot of the soy milks will be fortified with calcium. Some are fortified with iron as well, which is great. Some of the breakfast cereals are also fortified with iron. But like I said, it's about a complete protein, having it together with your vitamin C. What can reduce iron absorption as well is caffeine, tea or coffee with a meal. it reduces iron absorption. And I always remember my English grandfather sitting there drinking a cup of tea and eating his sandwich like this, and he had low iron. Not that that was the reason, but he used to have his cup of tea and eat at the same time. So when you're having tea or coffee, not with a meal, wait at least half an hour. So, you know, it's always important when we're looking at iron, not just things to increase iron, what also reduces iron absorption.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll send you a iron counter.
Yeah.
Yep.
I found the recipe.
What was that?
I found the recipe.
Oh, you did. Good on you.
Do
The
you want me to
cheese. What is it?
chaffle?
So what's what?
It's 1 egg,
1 egg.
3 tablespoons of almond flour,
Ooh.
1 tablespoon of mayonnaise,
Ooh, yum.
1/4 of a tablespoon of baking powder,
Yep.
1 tablespoon of water.
Where's the cheese?
Well, the cheese is up to you.
Oh.
I was mistaken that the cheese is not. So that's the ingredients.
And then you mix it up like you mix up like a pancake, right? Is it all mixed together?
They're all mixed together in a bowl.
Yep.
Then you preheat the Jaffle iron
Yep.
and you cook for 8 minutes.
Yep.
And that's it. So that's 1 chapel.
This is great, Stephen, because I'm developing another meal plan, and I was asking Tash yesterday, do you have any more ideas? Because I find lunch and dinner very easy, but breakfast, you know, I sometimes struggle for ideas. So thank you so much. I'm going to try this. I'm going to get my daughter to help me because all the new recipes I do, she likes to be involved. So I think this will be an easy one for her. Thank you.
So you just make up as much as you want. You put it in the freezer, and you use it, as I said, instead of bread, instead of the baker's loaf.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Peter, hello, welcome. You have your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually for breakfast swap the meals around. So I'll have particularly if I've got a bit of a time on the weekend, I'll have a huge plate of veggies. Mm-hmm. So sort of have some greens. Well, quite a few greens. Some sweet potato, carrots, and sort of have a vegetarian protein, and often I'll put an egg on top. So just
Fantastic.
What you're saying.
Love it.
But the interesting thing was that I've been trying out a CGM for a while, and after I get quite a big spike after a meal of veggies. Mm-hmm. Yet when I have cheese on toast, I don't get any spike.
Yep.
So
what do you think that's about?
Because I don't. The protein and fat in the cheese is sort of not creating the spike.
It slows it down, doesn't it? And it softens the peak, but also the veggies, still clocks up the carbs. Like I make this hidden veggie bolognese, and I use pork mince and a heap of grated vegetables and the tomato paste, not canned tomatoes, sorry. And it clocks up about 16 grams of carbs just with some grated veggies. So it clocks up quite quickly, and that's just over 1 exchange of carbs in the old money, if I can say, or the same as 1 slice of bread. So yeah, it clocks up, but it's a beautiful breakfast. So keep going with that breakfast. I love the old egg on top as well. And you look at the Vietnamese, when you go to Vietnam, pho, the breakfast, you got the noodles with the broth and the vegetables and the chicken. And so sometimes I love what you said, Peter, and thanks for reminding me that certainly if someone wants, like my daughter has got a real savoury tooth, so usually in the morning she'll want leftover hidden veggie bolognese or something savoury. So yeah, that's also a great idea to curb hunger if breakfast is your hungriest time of the morning, time of the day, I should say. So you're vegetarian, Peter?
Most of the time. My wife is a full-on vegetarian. I'm happy to
You're
usually chicken
flexitarian.
or fish.
You're flexitarian.
Yeah. But it sort of depends on what's available.
Yeah.
And sort of I've done a fair bit of traveling with all I've retired now, but sort of when you travel all the time, it's very difficult to get good vegetarian, although that's slowly changing.
It's slowly changing, yeah.
Yeah, but it was more just having what was available.
Yep. I always found that like Asia was easy for vegetarian diets when traveling, but it was more Europe. It's a lot of cheese. Cheese and bread.
Yep.
That was about it, really.
Another question, please.
The other place I've sort of over a couple of years just to try and find good vegetarian meals. I've just sort of been searching on the internet, and I've got an Excel spreadsheet of literally hundreds of sites that all have one or two different vegetarian meals.
You need an app now. This is an app idea, Peter.
Yeah.
In your spare time. I think it's a great idea.
Something you get
and then count the carbs for us. And then count the carbs. Then it will be. That's the summary of this webinar. Diabetes meets vegetarianism. You know, and just do the milligrams and iron. Just to help Deb out. They've got a great app. But if you've got anyone else has got, sorry.
I was just going to say with the iron, sort of eating mostly vegetarian, I've had no trouble at all.
Yeah, everyone's different, aren't they? I mean, women are more at risk when they're at pre-menopause as well. Very high. I've had many women in my practice come in because of menstruation, and even though they've had a good diet, so that can be a factor. But everyone's different with iron absorption. Sometimes it's an absorption issue, not so much what you're putting into your body. Yeah, so everyone's different. Everyone's different for sure. But the iron infusion is key, if not the iron supplement. That can also have a side effect of constipation, so always being aware. Yes. But like I said, I'm going to send through a couple of links to our website. So if you haven't really been on our website recently, go on the website, go up the top in the search engine and put recipes, and there's so many there, and you can pick and choose. You might click on vegetarian and it will just spit out all vegetarian recipes or low carb or whatever. But I'll pick a few that I know are balanced in protein and carb. Not easy to do. The one I'm actually creating at the moment is a tofu burger, which even meat eaters really like. And I didn't tell one of my sisters that it was vegetarian, and she really, really liked it. I just said it was a burger. But it is the mashed tofu, and if you can play around with the spices, particularly cumin powder and smoked paprika, they just give it such a nice taste. Like the smoked paprika tastes like chorizo. I often use that in cooking, and grated vegetables. So the tofu burger actually clocks up. It's called a naked tofu burger because it's not going to have the bun. It's going to be the tofu with salad and everything. But don't forget the low carb wraps are out in the supermarket. There's low carb breads that are quite high in protein. So Bergen have a low carb, very high protein bread that tastes good. And then there's another company who have the wraps, really high protein and fiber as well. So if you've got favorite recipes like nachos or burritos or things like that, try the low carb ones, or make the chaffle. The chaffle. I'm going to make the. Oh, Stephen, is that served one? I'm assuming that serves just one egg.
It serves makes two chaffles.
Oh right, okay, but that's you can have it yourself.
So that recipe makes two chaffles.
Oh, I'd have both. Yeah, okay. And the almond flour would definitely give it a little bit more protein, and it's very low carb. So yeah, wow. I wonder if you could make them and then put them in the fridge. wrap
yeah,
them and
so we used to make enough for a week.
wow. Okay. Okay. Oh, this is really good. It's given me an idea. And everyone, again, like I said, I'm going to ask again, if you've got any recipes, please email them to me. This afternoon, I'm going to email Natasha all the things I've promised. And when you see my email, if you want to donate any recipes that you want me to edit, or you think that's pretty good for me just to post like that, I have a system, a software. I use software called FoodWorks, where I analyze all the recipes. So I type in ingredients to a recipe and it will spit out all the different macronutrients and micronutrients. And that's how I assess recipes, using that nutritional software.
So I was just interested, breakfast timing. So if I wake up normally at 5:30, I'm eating breakfast at about 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Does it differ? It would differ per person, but in your opinion, the timing of having something to eat, what would you call it? What would you say would be the right time, or a
different for everyone? But if you get up and are really going to be really, really active, I would have your breakfast when you wake up. But everyone, like I said, everyone's different. I don't have it straight away. I usually have a cup of tea or two, and I won't eat for about an hour because I just like having my tea. And but some people wake up hungry, and I've had clients who, if they miss having breakfast when they get up, they can experience a low sugar, or you can sometimes become really, really hungry later on. So I'd go with what your body wants. So you said you wake up and then you eat a little bit later. If you're happy with that, no problem. No problem at all. Everyone's different. But I would say as soon as you wake, to have a glass of water, hydrate first before eating breakfast. I have to have the glass next to the bed, otherwise I forget, but hydrate first. So everyone's different. I've never seen anyone who has had the same regime. Only if you're waiting too long, like I said, and getting too hungry or the sugars are low, then I'd say wake up and eat. I've had some people have almost like morning tea first and then breakfast later. So I've had one lady who felt that she was getting a bit low, she didn't eat, so she'd have just a small piece of fruit cut up, and that was kind of morning tea at breakfast. And then by around 10 o'clock, that's when she had her breakfast, so brunch, and that would keep her going till the afternoon around 2, and then she'd eat dinner around 6 or 7. So you can swap around, and like Peter said, you can wake up and have a meal at breakfast, and you can swap it around. As long as there's regularity. Different things work for different people. I always go on people's symptoms before making recommendations, but there's no definite rule. Some people won't eat till a few hours, they fast. Everyone's different. I'm just seeing if there's any. I can't believe how did that happen? 2 to 3. That's just gone very fast.
My fault.
No, it's good. I always think when I start this webinar, what are we going to talk about for the hour? But there's always an interesting question. It's always been good. What's that, Stephen?
I said I kind of took over.
No, it's good. This is what this webinar is about. Some people just like to sit back and have a wee listen and take it in. So everyone's different. There's no rule in this webinar. I try not to talk so much, so I like people taking over, because otherwise I'll just talk the whole time.
Thank you.
So I think any other questions edamame beans. That's another thing I wrote down. I was doing a little research this morning. So edamame beans are soybeans. Really, really good. They're 9 grams of protein for half a cup and only 10 grams of carb. So that makes a really good, if you're doing like a salad, you could do half a cup of edamame beans. You're getting 9 grams and only 10 grams of carb. Then you could put you can think sort of Japanese, you could put some tuna in there, or you could put some egg in there. But edamame beans are really, really good for you, and they really give you a lot of fiber and low carbs. So that's also another option for proteins. But I'll put this in a little table for you all just to have a look, because remember I said at least 10 grams at breakfast of protein and 20 for lunch and dinner, but you can do 20 again for breakfast, but that's just the minimum if you're having a traditional breakfast like cereal or toast. But if you're having a main meal at breakfast, then go for the 20 grams.
What's the best place to get the edamame beans?
You can get them
the only
frozen.
place that I've seen is frozen.
Yeah, frozen. That's it's been a while since I've gone into an Asian grocery store, like I'd have to go to Sydney for that, and wouldn't be in Wollongong. But if there's like a Japanese sort of grocery store, they might have them. But I have never seen them fresh before. Only frozen. Deb, have you seen edamame? No, I've only seen them frozen.
I get a fettuccine that's made from edamame beans.
Oh,
So
that sounds
it's
lovely.
obviously low carb.
Where do you get that from? Is that from like a local?
Online.
Oh,
It's
you said that before. Yeah, right.
yeah, keto. QEOTO. I'll look it up, but yeah.
Yum.
And that they have a whole range. So they have a whole range of pasta substitutes. Do you know what, Peter?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of advertising recently, so I haven't tried them yet, but yeah, definitely like the rice substitutes, pasta substitutes, and yeah, they're all low carb.
Yep.
Is it an Australian company?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, could you send that to me, Deb?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. I'm going to check that out. Thank you. Because it helps me with recipes that I develop. Sometimes I make recommendations of a particular product to use, because people say, well, what do you mean edamame pasta? Or what do you mean low carb bread? Low carb bread can range from 2 grams to 9 grams. And that really puts you out of whack with carb counting if I don't mention the specific brand. So, yeah. Very good. Well, everyone, delighted to have you all again. Thank you for joining. And I always say this, I always learn something from you. So thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, thank you so much for everyone joining today. We've also put a link in both of the chats. If you do have a moment just to fill out the survey, we really love everyone's feedback, just so we can make sure that any future webinars we hold are useful for you. So we'd love everyone's feedback as well.
Yeah, topics included, or if you want to email me separately, if you've got topic ideas, we're always looking for new ideas, because what will work for you will work for someone else.
Let's have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.